another reminder that no, I don't make videos like this for clickbait. I make videos like this because I find them personally challenging to carry a narrative that you don't hear as the mainstream. So I'm just going to say this. This is what the video is about. If I were gay, I would choose to marry a woman. And I know that's heresy in today's culture, because culture teaches you if you're a man who's attracted to other men, then you should follow your heart, be who you are, don't deny yourself, be who you are. Be gay. Be actively gay with other men. Be who you are. What I'm saying, I'm not here to get involved with what other gay men should do. I'm here to say instead, if I were attracted to men physically instead of women, if I personally would choose to marry a woman anyway. And that's what I would do. I'm not saying that's what other people should do. It's what I would do. And I think it's interesting that we talk about this because I know that there is a movement of this, men with SSA, same-sex attraction, that choose to marry women. And my understanding is this is largely in Utah. It's largely people that are Latter-day Saints, Mormon, people that are doing this. And the wives are aware that their husbands are attracted to other men, but they get married anyway, and this happens. But that's more of a modern concept. I just can't stop thinking about like 1950s, 1960s, these perfect ideas of these cookie cutter neighborhoods, basically kind of I live in now, but in the 1960s, 1950s, and all of these certain stereotypes we have of life back then. Makes me think like, well, if 2% of the population now is gay, was 2% of the population back then gay too? We didn't know it. And here were all these gay men that were marrying women. Why? Why did they do that? Well, they didn't want to commit career suicide. They didn't want to be shunned by society. And for many of them, and it would be the case for me, they were of a faith that taught that was a sin. And here in America that would be Christianity, but in the Middle East, it'd be Islam. There's more than one religion that teaches that homosexuality is not pleasing to God. But I think what's interesting is, and what can really be picked apart is, you could be attracted to men but not act on it. And I'm not talking about that there's men that choose to marry women but then secretly are getting with other guys. No. I mean literally men that are attracted to other men, they choose not to act on it, they choose to marry a woman, and they choose to live that lifestyle instead for the various reasons already named. Even in 2019, I'm saying that's still happening. And it's not necessarily because they, are ashamed to be who they really are. It's because ultimately they're looking at their life paths and thinking, you know what? I would rather choose to live the more mainstream life for those reasons I just named. And that's what I would do if I were in that situation. I personally would deny my physical attraction to other men. Now, for me, when I read the Bible, it talks about all of us denying our natural desires. So for some men, they are attracted to other men. But I have all kinds of desires I have to resist. We all do. And so for me, if I were attracted to men, I'd be like, okay, well, here's one of my challenges in life. And therefore, I guess I'm going to marry a woman, and that'll be my life. Again, that's heresy by today's standards to say that out loud. But it's going on, and it's been going on. And only now is it becoming more acceptable to be otherwise. But if you've seen my other videos talking about this, you know that I do not believe that men are born gay. I believe that they're conditioned that way, usually through a negative relationship with their father and or unresolved trauma. And ultimately they sexualize the idea of a positive male in their life. And overwhelmingly, every gay man I've ever met in my life, without exception, has fallen into that category. So I'm not saying that's what makes you gay. I'm saying that the men who are already gay have that similar backstory. In the same way that so many men that are gay if you ask them, hey, did you have to go to speech class like when you were a kid, like in first or second grade because you had a lisp? There's an overwhelming similarity and pattern there. And I think that's interesting. So, no, it's not that I believe that being gay is a choice, like, oh, I'm choosing to be attracted to a man, because I cannot make that choice myself. But I can have empathy and imagine, but psychologically, if certain things happen to me and I never dealt with the unresolved trauma and I never dealt with deal with my dad, which I have a great relationship with my father, but I'm putting myself in that situation. See, I think ultimately, that men who are gay often have a lot of issues that they never worked out. And this is like a warning sign, a flare, a call to action, like, hey, we all have issues, but specifically, what needs to be resolved here? That's the case with all of us. But I've said before, I've noticed this pattern also with people who are alcoholics, drug addicts, people who suffer depression, unresolved trauma, and or a very negative relationship with their father. Doesn't mean that you become those things, but it means that overall they have a similar backstory. So for me, believing what I believe in my head that I just said, how I truly believe there's a cause and effect situation going here, knowing that that's what I believe, with that knowledge, and believing that we all were born with a sinful nature, and some of us are attracted to the same sex. Others, we have our own issues, and believe me, I have my own issues. Okay? We all were born into sin. But for me, believing what I believe, I would choose to marry a woman and find and sort out my issues accordingly, and start by asking, okay, can I forgive my dad? I had a brother that drowned in a lake, and I was right there and I couldn't save him, and I was only 7, and I haven't been able to talk about that my whole life, and I can't believe I'm saying this right now. Now that's not true what I just said, but I'm just saying that's a starter conversation for that. I believe that there is unresolved psychological issues that aren't being talked about. And instead what society teaches is, you don't have any issues, you're completely normal, don't worry about it, you just be you. But I'm saying, whether you're gay or not, we all have to think about, have we dealt with our issues? Are we dealing with our issues? Did our brother drown in the lake while we were standing right there when we were 7 and we never talked to a counselor about it? Was my father emotionally absent? And when he did talk to me, it was only for his selfish motives, however it was, to make him look good in front of other people, whatever it was. And again, I made a video that shows it's fairly relatable to a lot of people who are watching it. The one about pastors, Christian church pastors that have gay sons, and how complicated that relationship is. And how the fact that their dad was so involved as a pastor that they had to feel like they were a certain person that they weren't, and their father still, despite being a church pastor, didn't know how to react to his son in a way that was loving and accepting. I'm fascinated by this topic. I know that this is politically incorrect. I know that most people don't agree with me on it, and I'm not trying to convince anyone against what they believe. I'm simply sharing what I believe is going on, and I'm simply sharing what I would personally do. So I know that this will have equal likes and dislikes. Of the people who would dislike this video, it'll be people who either are gay and disagree with me. And of the other half that dislike me, it'll be people who thinks that I'm being too tolerant to gay people. And then the other half that will be equal to the number of dislikes will be people who like the video and they understand where I'm coming from. That, you know what, even if I'm wrong about this theory, at least I'm really putting a lot of thought into it, and I'm bringing up something that people don't talk about. Even if I'm completely wrong about what causes men to be gay. No one's arguing what led me here, and that is my realization that alcoholics, drug addicts, and people who suffer from depression, have major issues in that regard, also have the same backstory. Negative relationship with father, or some kind of unresolved trauma from when they were a child. And that is a pattern. Instead of what happens, people try to treat what they see. Oh, you're an alcoholic, join the program. Oh, you're depressed, here's some drugs, etc. But I say, cause and effect. The trauma that needs to be unearthed and dealt with, not with me, not some random guy on YouTube, but with a professional. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying in the same way, I see those same patterns with gay men. Is anyone willing to agree with me about this, especially if you're gay? But yeah, that's what I would do if it were me personally. Everyone makes their own decisions. I'm sharing a personal experience based on what I know. Knowing that, that's what I would do in that situation. And chances are I probably know some men who fall into that category. They're doing a good job of covering it up. Comments belong right here.